Welcome to another episode of Ask the Expert on Contingent Workforce Strategies LinkedIn group. And I'm here with a really special person that I've known for a long time. We go way back to the early days of the industry when it was evolving, and had John as a speaker at a conference, and it was a very memorable session. And ever since that time, we've had great conversations. And so not only am I excited about the guest and our expert today, I'm really excited about his views on the topic. And the topic of total talent management and the real workforce ecosystem is a really important one. I think it's a buzzword that's been overused, miscategorized, misdefined. And we're going to sit down with John Healy today to talk about the real workforce ecosystem and the idea of total talent management and the various definitions around that. So John, I'm excited for you to be on with me today. This is a long time coming. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Let's have some fun today and just real candid conversation about a lot of things. And apologies up front for the shying away from the contingent piece here, because I really think that we have a massive gap in the market when people only look at that part of what's going on. And as a worker, I've never declared myself as contingent. I've never heard of someone refer to themselves as contingent. And as a company, if I'm talking with a line manager, it's all about getting work done, not the contractual model that people are engaged in. So when we start with workforce ecosystems, we absolutely have to understand that we're looking at the whole of just how does work get done for a company?
100%. And so to give the audience a little bit of a background on Mr. John Healy, he's got over 30 years of experience in the staffing and the contingent workforce management space and the total talent and HR space, talent space in general. I always joke with him, he was the VP of everything at Kelly Services and Kelly OCG. He went from being a sales leader to an MD in Asia Pacific, managed the supply chain group at Kelly and grew that out, and then headed up the Office of the Future of Work before going out and retiring from Kelly. And then, of course, John, not sitting on his laurels or just getting a golf membership, has really accelerated as a fractional executive in the industry, working with different companies, government organizations, seeing all sorts of approach to their talent. And actually, really cool thing, he worked with the World Employment Confederation, and that is the confederation and the association of all of the national associations of staffing organizations across the globe, and it worked to head up their digitization strategy. So, this guy's got unbelievable experience, and I'm so blessed to have him on the show today. So sorry for tooting your horn a little bit, but I had to, John. And I know you're humble about it. Right?
I'm humbled by the amount of opportunity and the different things that I've had an opportunity to get engaged with. And now I think it's time to give back. It's time to really look at where transformation can happen and improve the way people connect with work. That'll help society, it'll help individuals, and it'll help companies get the productivity they need as well. And so now I'm kind of done with the small incremental change, Jeff. Now it's time to really see some true change. And the technology market today is opening things up widely. The pandemic shifted things pretty radically and caused companies to say, okay, we can't do it the same way anymore. If you don't have a work from home strategy right now, you're dead. If you don't have a gig strategy right now, you're dead. I would tell you, if you don't have an India strategy right now, you're in trouble. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on in the market, and I'm having fun just kind of playing in some different areas.
And that's the exciting part of it, right? So as we all kind of put in our years in the industry, um, you look at it and go, it's too exciting and too much opportunity and really cool stuff going on to say, oh, I'm leaving, right? So
Mhm.
it's amazing. So, on the topic of total talent management and the real workforce ecosystem, you kind of elaborated to it that it's not just contingent or it's not just FTE. There's a whole whack load of sources of talents and methods of getting work done. Can you talk about the whole workforce ecosystem and the
Yep.
various methods that companies are looking to help get their work and support their business and get work done?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Had to really step away to actually open my eyes to something that's much bigger. I think in my time within the industry, you saw an awful lot of view that said full-time employee plus temporary employee equals total talent. If I could just mush these two together. So if I can get my ATS talking to my VMS, I'm done, right? That's all I need. And it was when I first left Kelly about 3 years ago, I got exposed to Open Assembly and I started learning about crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing shifted my brain a little bit and said, wait a minute, there's something different here. What hasn't been talked about a lot in this space is the top layer, which is about the engagement model and the understanding of the worker.
Yeah.
And in your internal workforce, we're seeing a lot more of the employee engagement platforms. Okay, we understand that. Our learning and development platforms of what's going on and how do I really understand where people are. But we've seen the emergence of some of the internal mobility platforms. So think of a gloat that's out there right now. What was it? LinkedIn had their study that said 75% of the CHROs said that LinkedIn knew their workforce better than they knew their own workforce. Okay, so companies are learning. I need to understand, who is Jeff? What does Jeff want to do? What are Jeff's motivations? What's going to intrigue him? But now we take that to the external marketplace. Oh, wait a minute. Who's tracking all of that? Where is that hidden? And that's where I think you've seen a lot of these gig platforms really build out a different set of capabilities. It's not about the match. It's about community building and understanding what do people need and how do you reach, what's the new term I heard, mitosis, where that community becomes self-fulfilling and people are engaging each other and really helping it grow. You can see that in any of the communities you're a part of. They don't have to be online. They could be your local church. They could be your local hockey program. I don't care what it is, but you know those communities that are there that are causing people to come together. And so when we think about a workforce ecosystem, if you're not capturing all four of those components, you're missing something significant. And there's a lot more in there that's not just about the tech. The tech just enables the pieces.
Right.
But for me, when I think of the workforce ecosystem, I've got to look at all four of those quadrants and say, do I really understand what's going on in all those areas? And can I get the data collectively across them? And from an integration standpoint, and I do not mean technology integration, from a business integration standpoint, do they work with each other? Do the decision trees enable us to look across?
Yeah.
So, it's my challenge to any MSP who's, got a customer who's saying, I need to drop my prices by 10%. How about you find an internal worker to take this project on at zero incremental cost?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to find someone we're just missing engaging the workforce more effectively.
And making it seamless and ensuring that policies you have are engaging and don't disrupt that seamlessness of flow of how
Or you
work is
redo your
done.
policy. Why
Yeah.
not pay someone a little extra for taking on a gig project internal to the company instead of hiring a contractor?
Yeah.
Well, my wage and hour people don't like that. Well, if you go back, Google did a really good job on that, saying, hey, your salary is for the 70% of your job that you do every day that's in your job description. 20% of your time, we want to be available to do other projects for other people inside the organization. oh, there's a simple policy shift that enabled them to do that. And then they said, and by the way, I want 10% of your time doing whatever you want to do that's going to excite you and motivate you in the market. Okay, so there's a simple policy shift that enables me to get around that HR compliance police officer who's gumming up your system and preventing you from doing what's right by people. So so much of this is, it's not the tech, it's the policy, it's the approach, it's the mindset of how you work through things.
No, for sure. And the whole idea of the method of work as well,
Yep.
and how that's shifting. It's an interesting discussion to have as well when under the umbrella of total talent management, right?
Yep.
Because you think of the way you engage workers in terms of their employment structure,
Yep.
but it's also putting in that layer of how work gets done. And
Yep.
is it per project, per outcome or task, or is it, how you engage the workers? Because just putting a person on a project and letting them run with it and not having it structured in a way that gets work done the way you need it to get done sometimes works, and in certain
But not
roles,
for the long term. We
customer
know that.
service, etc. But when you have project-based work, which a lot of work is these days, should it be structured more in a way that whatever the optimum type of worker, engaged employee, uh, contractor, crowdsource, SOW, outsourced to a consulting house, etc., really thinking about strategically about that method of getting work done too. And
Yeah.
so I know you've looked at this quite a bit, and you've talked to different organizations that are on the leading edge of it. Um, define crowdsourcing, define some of the benefits, and
Yep.
then define some of the potential pitfalls or obstacles of
Yep.
crowdsourcing.
Yeah. So I gotta just do a shout out to a couple people. Kareem Lakhani at Harvard, who one teaches a wonderful class, and happy to get the link out to your audience on it. But a great course in understanding the crowdsourcing market. It's they call it the D3 Lab, and it did a lot of work for NASA in working through what a very specific set of challenges that they were in. That's where I got to know John Windsor and Jin Pake, who have their book on open talent that's out there right now. So exciting on that end. But if we think of crowdsourcing, best way it was put to me at one point is someone said, hey, if the problem has reached the CEO's desk, odds are it's not going to be solved inside the company. And that can be either because we don't have the knowledge inside the organization, or maybe our processes and the way the culture is going to prevent us from getting things done. And so where else can we go to find ideas? And can we start exploring in a broader world? And as you start getting in there, you start finding out that people will participate in a challenge. We've all had it where someone said, hey, I don't know how to get this done. Maybe it's a friend and you just wanted to help them out.
Yeah.
Okay? You did that. Okay. You were part of a crowd. It was a small crowd. But what if we start extending that broader? And so people will participate for three different reasons. One is extrinsic, so money or prestige. Oh, there's a contest. I want to be the one. I don't care if it's to name the new hockey team that comes in. I want that prestige of what's there. Or you go to companies like HeroX or to Topcoder or Wazuko, and it's a coding competition. Well, there's a lot of prestige in being the one who could solve something there. And you look at a lot of the open source work. So that can be the extrinsic, the money, the prestige. The second is the intrinsic, which could be, this is fun. I'm fascinated by this, or the learning. So think of all the people who has said, you keep hearing, oh, coding, you got to learn Python. There's a lot of jobs out there and you can make a lot of money if you can become a data scientist and you can do these things. Okay, well, if I pick up a skill and my company won't give me access to an opportunity to work on that because I don't have 3 years of experience. I just took a class on YouTube, or I took a class online, or I went to a local community college, wherever. How do I do that? And so you have a lot of people getting an opportunity. Hey, I want to try something there. Or, if you've, started a business and you need a logo for something and went through and someone was trying to learn graphic design, great place to kind of go out and see, can I make a living at this? And you can work through that. And then the third area is pro-social. And pro-social is when there's a cause. And you say, this is important. We need to do this. And that might be about setting industry standards, and looking at the value of doing something there and really climbing in. So the crowd can come together for a variety of different reasons to take something on. What becomes really important is that you understand why you're bringing in a certain crowd and that you give them the right project. So we'll go back to our little 2x2 block. If you think of the x-axis and you're looking at idea generation, does it require a few people have the expertise to create the idea? Or many could create the idea. Okay, so if I think of a few, your internal R&D function. Okay, product development. Small group of people, deep expertise. I need them to look at something. But maybe if you're looking at a labor market and I just need a new logo, a lot of people can come up with that. A lot of technology can even come up with that. So, okay, many can come there. Now, if you go up, so idea generation is on one, and then on the y-axis, you look at have the knowledge for the selection. Now we're getting into adoption. So if it's only going to require a few people to make the choice, again, you're in that small R&D function. But what if you're looking at a standard setting body?
Yeah.
And you want everyone to agree on a set of standards. Okay, you need many in there. So having your internal R&D team create a set of standards for the industry won't work.
No.
You need a broad group doing that. Now go on to the other side. You've got many doing the idea generation. Okay? Think about having that selection. Think of your app store. Your app store is a beautiful crowdsourcing example where a lot of people have come up with a lot of different ideas. Now you get to pick. So many people can make the selection of what's there. So throughout our lives, we see it. But organizations have struggled to conceptualize where does crowdsourcing fit into our workforce strategy. And why I go back to Kareem Lakhani or Steve Rader is a person at NASA. The NASA Tournament Lab is the best example, the best use of crowdsourcing that I've seen. So if you think of our US Space Agency, when they have a problem, they actually ask the question, do we go to the 17,000 internal employees? Do we go to the 50,000 contract workers? Or do we go to the 1 million+ people who've submitted ideas to help us solve this problem? And so if you're doing that, now you get into all kinds of things about how do you phrase the challenge? How do you deconstruct and reconstruct the challenge to explore things in different ways? If you're running into a lot of problems or you find yourself talking about scarcity, crowdsourcing is an absolute place to find abundance.
Yeah.
And when you do that, now you got to think through, you got to understand how to do it the right way. But we've got more and more organizations that have built businesses and platforms around this. And there is academic rigor in learning and understanding just how to do this right now. So I've found it to be a really fascinating area, particularly solving engineering problems these days.
Well, and it's the original large data model, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about it, And the comparisons to AI, if you can go out and bring in and have a methodology to bring back all that knowledge and filter it through to help you with solving problems, it is the
Open source
original
software.
large. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you had asked earlier, Jeff, what prevents it? It's loss of control is maybe the biggest thing, and then just fear of secrecy. Ooh, my stuff is so special, I can't let anyone find out about this. Well, NASA's stuff is pretty special, that they don't want anyone to know about. So you construct your question in a different way, that you're getting the answers that you need, but maybe you're not exposing all of your IP. So you're taking you're chunking your projects in different ways to use crowdsourcing for the right things. It's not this, I'm not going to crowdsource my entire corporation to get things done, but there are things that I'm going to look at and say, there's a different way to accomplish this work. And particularly when you're running into scarcity, that should be a trigger that says, maybe there's a different way to get things done here.
100%. What are some of the downsides? And I think you've mentioned a few of them, but it would be good to just, what are some of the downsides and how have you seen companies deal with that? And I think you mentioned, the loss of control, IP issues, etc.
I think
What
fit
else?
for purpose fit for purpose and fear is the biggest downside in the beginning. You have to experiment. Okay?
Yeah.
I think most people want to get to scale immediately. No, let's do something in a simple way. Like NASA, one of the things that they did early on, take the Mars rover. Okay, project's done. It's been a success. Okay, it's a resounding success. One of the great things in NASA history. But what they did is they went back and said, hey, you know what? We had 10 projects that were really difficult to solve. And we spent millions of dollars solving them. And we know the result was good in the end. But they popped back and said, let's put those same 10 projects, those same 10 problem statements out to the crowd and see what happens. Yeah. And they had Northwestern University do the judging. Well, the crowd won on 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And the prizes were tiny in comparison.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you took a non-threatening area, somewhere that it wasn't taking, oh, this is Jeff's pet project, I'm taking it away from Jeff and giving it to the crowd. Now, you said, Jeff, you accomplished this exceptionally well. We're very proud of you. You've already gotten a bonus for it. We're just curious, would the crowd have done it differently? And you can learn from that. I can learn from that. The whole organization can start figuring some things out. So I think it's that desire. It all has to be done at scale, and it has to be in the critical project immediately. That's the stuff where I think people fail. It's that mindset of kind of learning and understanding first, and then, okay, now we can do some experimentation, and then we can operationalize in a way that can help us get to scale and eventually transformation.
Yeah. And bringing the community together, and this is in more of a general statement, drives the innovation, because you've got what you've got today that is good, bringing in the community to talk about how could we do this better, and sourcing those ideas from the community. Generally, let's call it, build a better product and drive innovative thinking.
Yeah. So if you think of like a traditional bell curve,
yeah,
and if you say, okay, we've got to solve something, and you gave it to the internal R&D department. So in the bell curve, what you're measuring is the value of an idea from left to right, and then top to bottom, the probability of it being successful. Okay? So if you're looking at innovation, you give it to the R&D team, you expect that they're going to have things relatively high on that probability of success, right? They've been doing a lot of things, and they're going to generally be clustered in kind of that top piece of it. Well, what you get when you get to the crowd is you shift everything a little bit, and you start realizing some people are giving you ideas that the value of the idea is much broader, because they're not inhibited by the group think that has been
Yeah, the
part of the
constraint.
team and
Yeah.
all the, oh, we can't do that. But I think you have to understand your business strategy and what you want to accomplish with your workforce. And then you've got to have that skills ontology. You need to understand the capabilities and the interests of people and start working your way through building that. And the fun part today, the supply and demand data in the market is more robust than it's ever been. You know, we can really look in and say, okay, does this talent exist? How can I structure it? Okay, it exists, but it's all in Croatia right now. Okay, I'm going to have a remote project because I don't have a team over there. How do I configure that? Okay, there are plenty of EOR companies that can help you legally and compliantly engage the workforce. So now it's just about finding the talent and making sure that the project is oriented in a way that you can get it done versus saying, oh boy, I got to go set up a legal entity. I got to set up a business over there. I'm not going. So the ability to manage remote teams has been overcome by most organizations. The compliance pieces have been overcome by the service providers that are out there and in the market living there today. So I say it's about a mindset of thinking about how you do things differently is the biggest part of it. And then we all have our own decision trees of how we kind of build our way through. And just like in any organization, you'll recognize, hey, my data set's not real full here. I feel like I'm taking a risk on this one because I'm making a decision with partial information.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to beef up the information that I have over here to feel more confident in my decision making there. Great. We'll go through it. You're not going to have perfect information for every choice that you make. So when something's new, let's do it in some of those low risk areas and then continue to elevate the risk that you're willing to take in areas and the knowledge sets that you have.
So we talked about how do organizations start to choose and set up their ways of thinking and infrastructure to look at their various, methods of work and the types of workers. It's now the who, right?
Yep.
So is this going back to decentralization and having it within certain operating entities and departments, or is it driven by procurement, or is it driven by HR and talent folks? Who kind of drives this, umbrella of getting back to the topic, total talent management, and choosing what components of the workforce ecosystem to get the work done in. So who is it that really drives some of this from your experiences?
The people responsible for doing the work and the people responsible for the work being done. This is about getting to human-centered design. I think this is, if we go back to some of the tech that's out there today, if we look at our VMS tools or we look at our HRIS tools, a lot of them are driven around compliance and workflows to ensure all the boxes are ticked so that we don't end up in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Okay? And I respect that. But if you sit with the line manager who's responsible for getting the work done, or you sit with the worker who is applying for a role, their level of satisfaction with those processes is pretty low.
Yes.
So I would tell you it's time to kind of pull back and look at that human-centered design of who are the people responsible for the work on either end and start building for them. And my evidence for it, we all know ChatGPT and how quickly it took. The measure that is used most commonly for product adoption, for true breakthrough products, is when you reach 100 million users per month.
Yeah.
And how many months does it take you to achieve that? And there's a chart I saw recently, had the 10 most recent products that had been there. I think Google Translate was the oldest. It took them 78 months to get to 100 million users per month. Fast forward, boom, 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 ChatGPT, 2 months.
Yeah.
If you look at all 10 of those products, how many of them had a change management program? 0. We are living off of creating unnecessary complexity and accepting MVP products that never get to that breakthrough stage.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're going to really see. That's the promise of AI to me right now. Some of that personalization that make it fit for me, some of the intuitiveness. That's why we're all loving ChatGPT or whatever large language model you want to work with right now. I can talk to it, and all of a sudden this stuff is just coming back at me, and it's making it easy for me to work with it and go through. So I'm getting to outcomes, I'm getting to personalization, and it doesn't require getting on that IT project list that's going to take me 18 months to get into the conversation, to be part of it with integrations that are going to prevent me from being able to do anything going forward without UAT testing in every step along the way. So I think if you design for those two parties, you'll start seeing product adoption really taking off. And if you look at some of these platforms from the gig economy,
yep,
they're doing it kind of well. That's why they're not fitting into a lot of the contingent workforce programs real well, because they're designed for the end user. They're designed to remove a lot of the friction that policy and process have created. Now they need to learn to make sure all the compliance stuff gets molded into it, because we still can't end up in the newspaper for the wrong reason.
Correct.
But the design, I believe, needs to be shifted first to the user experience and then embedded with the compliance elements, as opposed to built for compliance and then deal with the clumsy process, because that's all we got.
Well, you've heard it here first, folks, and we will look back at this discussion many years into the future and go, oh, John was right. So
I'll be wrong about plenty, trust me.
This has been awesome. As always, I learn lots from our conversations. I always jot down something of a new book or a course to take. And so I can't appreciate enough you taking time out of your day to make this happen and have a great discussion.
Well, a sincere thanks to you, Jeff, for bringing this community together, for having these conversations, because there's a lot of people with a lot of ideas. And you've created a forum that if I'm new into the marketplace, I can hear some things, and maybe it's going to stimulate my thinking, and I can find the next breakthrough that's there in the market. So I think you are doing a great service for all who care about improving the way people connect with work. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.